Well, I don't know, really, if democracy is so easy to be implanted after you have 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of dictatorship and don't have the gymnastics of democracy, the exercise of the vote. But let's hope it is that way. I don't think so, but let's imagine it goes that way. There is one danger in the next step, because in these countries, one way to get votes, one sure way to get votes is to pummel Israel. So it will be very easy to get elected on an anti-Israel, anti-Jewish platform, because those people have been hearing for decades the same song. So if you are going into the campaign and you're trying to get votes, well, you just sing the song that people want to hear. So even in the event that democracy begins to be the system of governing those countries and electing the authorities, I do think there is a danger lurking in the future, because the populism is one way of corrupting democracy, keeping the forms of democracy, but at the same time corrupting it in the practice. And I once again say that anti-Israelism is very popular because it has been sown. The seed of that idea has been sown for many years, and that can be very dangerous. Gone are the certainties of the past. Yesterday we had known quantities in the equation of power. We had Mubarak and Egypt, we had Assad, father or son, we had the others. So the certainty is one of the blessings of the international policy. Sometimes it's better to have the known devil there than the new one coming over. Well, that is not going to come back. So it's not easy to sail in uncharted waters. I wouldn't like to be in the shoes of the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister. He said this morning, in this time of the history of Israel, but we are not knowing the way the dice will fall. In the face of these events, we should go back to a basic principle of our policy and a belief of our struggle. Those principles are those gave birth to the recognition of the State of Israel as a sovereign country. In that sense, I do think that nothing new but standing fast by the essential affirmation of independence of the State of Israel and not admitting that no country, international organization or political movement can question the right of Israel to exist. Moreover, in the event of future negotiations, no progress can be made in any of them if it's not preceded by the unilateral, unconditional and unequivocal recognition that the independence, sovereignty and self-determination of the Jewish people in the Jewish land is a final and definitive fact of international relationships. One thing is to criticize the policies of the State of Israel, of the government of Israel. That can be wrong as any government. But another thing altogether is to deny the existence of the State of Israel. As long as any dark force thinks, talks, and acts otherwise, no better argument can be found or held on behalf of our stand with Israel and its people than the fact of our defense of those principles. Let me share now some remarks on a very painful issue, which is the Palestinian state issue. Since the very moment of the 1947 resolution, the two-state solution has been in the center of the Middle East problem. Since then, the obstacle to the arrival of a solution has been the Palestinian authorities and the Arab countries. One permanent line has continued through all these 60-some years. And that line is that the only authorities, the only entities to find a solution to this problem are the State of Israel and the Palestinian authorities. The bilateralism of this solution is the only permanent thread that passes and crosses through the resolution of 1947, the Oslo Compromise, the Camp David, you name it, all the decisions, either of the two parts or the international powers that wanted to help, is that this is a bilateral decision of the State of Israel and the authorities of the Palestinians. Now we see an international scheme taking place in an effort orchestrated by leftist governments, and it's orchestrated, you know it, I know it. This idea of recognition, unilateral recognition by the Assembly of United Nations is on the go. Sadly enough, my own government, the government of my own country, has ashamed us being one of the first to recognize this so-called state of Palestine. They are trying to circumvent the rules of United Nations. If next September the General Assembly does approve a resolution in this sense, the only thing that the Palestinian cause will get is a public relations coup, because it's not legal, it's not the competence of the General Assembly of the United Nations to recognize a state. So what we are seeing is the destruction of the peace process. This will bring the peace process back to number zero, to the beginning of the game. And that is what countries like mine don't seem to realize. They are going against the peace process by this unilateral recognition. Of course, the United Nations prestige is not what it used to be. We all know it. We must only remember which countries form part of the Committee on Human Rights to see how the principles of the United Nations have been mongrelized. But the idea, the political idea, is on the go, and I do think that preventive action should be taken in public relations, in governments, in social organizations. Let's not just wait for this thing to happen. We know it will happen, but we must try and fight the battle of making it hard for governments, for nations to proceed to the vote in the moment of the General Assembly. The problem of the flotilla of these boats that came over, we were caught unaware in our country of what was happening. We didn't have enough information, and that was against the interests of Israel. So this time, let's prepare our summaries, our connections, our interviews, and go everywhere to make our point before September. Of course, I won't teach you how to act. We are You have 75 years of experience of dealing with much worse situations than this. But as a politician, as a member of the Uruguayan Parliament, let me tell you that more work is needed in preparation of this event. So I would suggest that all the efforts of the World Jewish Congress can be or should be put to that effect. Of course, we know the final vote. We know it will be against the interest of the State of Israel. But let me tell you that we must go back to what I was calling the essential position of all peace-loving countries on the subject of Israel. If any, and as long as any organization or country denies the right of the State of Israel to exist, will stand by Israel come rain or shine. This barbaric, autocratic idea that a country can be erased from the face of the earth is not to be accepted even as an idea, because it's barbaric and it's autocratic and it defies the imagination that somebody can even think that a country can be denied the right of existence. 60 years after, some continue to call for the throwing of the Jews to the sea. So much for all the menaces. Here stands Israel, free and strong as a beacon of civilization and democracy. We are ready to turn swords into plowshares. But for the time being, wielding the sword in strong hands will be much better. Am Israel High.